to The Premise. I'm Jennifer Thompson.
I'm Chad Thompson.
Hello, Chad.
Hello.
I'm super excited about today's conversation.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, we're talking to Swan Huntley, who we interviewed a couple seasons back when we talked about her book, Getting Clean with Stevie Green. And today we are going to talk about her latest novel, I Want You More, which is fantastic. I cannot wait for all of you to read it. Swan, thank you so much for coming back to talk with us, and welcome to The Premise.
Jennifer Thompson, I'm delighted to be here.
Yay. So I'm going to read your bio for our listeners who are not aware of how badass you are. Swan Huntley's novels include I Want You More, Getting Clean with Stevie Green, The Goddesses, and We Could Be Beautiful. She's also the writer-illustrator of the darkly humorous The Bad Mood Book and You're Grounded, an anti-self-help book to calm you the fuck down. Swan earned an MFA at Columbia University and has received fellowships from MacDowell and Yaddo. She lives in Los Angeles. Again, Swan Huntley, thank you so much for being here. I am so excited to talk about this latest book. Welcome to The Premise.
Thank you, Jennifer. I'm delighted to be here.
Back again. So let's start with a short description. Tell our readers, or our listeners and our readers, what this book is about.
I Want You More is about a ghostwriter who goes to the home of a celebrity chef to write her memoir. They fall for each other. Things turn dangerous.
That's the best description, the best, I guess, elevator pitch ever. Things turn dangerous. And boy, do they. It's, I guess it's about losing yourself, isn't it?
It is very much about losing yourself. Yeah. I was thinking about this as one huge, very dramatized metaphor for all the bad relationships that I've been in. So taking the feelings of those relationships and then externalizing them to the highest degree. I think what happens when you fall for somebody is that you kind of fall into them. You sort of lose yourself. The lines become blurred. And so, again, I'm exploring that in a very big way.
And so Zara Pine, our main character, our heroine, if you will, she loses herself and kind of starts to become this other woman who she's, I don't want to give too much away, but she starts out like really not into this job, this ghostwriting job, but falls pretty heavy pretty quickly. Bring us through this process for you. I guess I have a couple different questions about it. Like, let's start with this. Where did this idea come from?
So, the idea was sparked when I was working as a ghostwriter, writing the memoirs of a real housewife of New York City. And during this process, she said to me, and I quote in her voice, "You come into my manna October 21. And I thought I would rather sleep in a box. And thank you. That's a very good idea for a novel. You know, what would have happened if I had gone to this woman's manor?
Oh, wow. So you didn't go. You said no, thank you.
It was the height of the pandemic, and she wanted me to go and observe her do her photo shoot for the cover of her book, which I didn't really feel was necessary.
Totally. Yeah, very intrusive. Wow, that is a brilliant idea for a book. And it really is kind of a manor, isn't it? In the East Hamptons, where she goes to stay with this celebrity chef.
Yeah, it's a sprawling estate, we can say. And I spent a couple weeks in the Hamptons. And, you know, I think with all of my work, I'm interested in the seedy underbelly of beautiful things. I grew up in a very beautiful place. I grew up in La Jolla, California, which is kind of East Hampton-y, and everything looks really good, and it's easy to trick yourself into believing that means that things are good. But, you know, when I was in East Hampton walking through these neighborhoods, I thought, what is really happening in these houses?
Yeah. Is that how you live your life? Like everywhere you go, you're like trying to see behind the closed door, like, what's going on in there? What kind of stories can I manifest behind those doors?
Totally. And anything that seems too shiny, I don't trust. Like people who are smiling all the time and say that they had perfect childhoods, I'm like, alarm. No, I do not buy this at all.
Same, same. We have a community here in San Diego, and I'm not going to mention the community because I'm just not going to do it. But when I go there, I get these like creepy weebie jeebie feelings. Like these lawns are too perfect. Like there's no children playing ball, there's no trash. And it kind of freaks me out. It gives me this like, I don't know, danger feeling. I don't know what it is. But yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's like overly sterilized, overly perfect, doesn't seem to reflect the real human experience.
The reality, exactly. And that's really well put. It's not the real human experience. So back to Zara Pine. I got to ask you about her name because it feels like Zara is pining for things in this novel. Was that
Well,
part
yeah,
of
that's intentional. So it's actually Zara Pines, and I did that because that's a full sentence.
Zara does
So
pine? She
it's,
does.
yeah.
So what a great name too. Where does the name Zara come from?
My sister's name is Zara,
Oh.
and when I told her I was naming the main character of my book Zara, she said, "Dude, don't do that. Everyone's gonna steal my name." And I was like, "Girl, it's a store. Like everybody knows
Yeah.
about your name now."
I'm
But who knows?
actually
Maybe there'll
surprised
be
it's
a wave
not.
of Zara.
Totally. It's a great name. So your sister. Okay, so Swan and Zara. What are the other fabulous names in your family?
There are four of us. The order in order it goes Swan Flannery, who's
Hmm.
a redhead. Nobody else is a redhead. Zara,
That's crazy.
yeah, and Fletcher is the boy.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, your parents like cool names. What are your parents like? I want to know more.
Great question. My parents really both have main character energy. They are not like background character energy people. They're both uh very eccentric, really people who are like really living in their own unique ways, not lemming people. My dad is dead now, but I remember asking him, he bought this bright pink phone case and I was like, Dad, why is your phone case like bright pink and purple? And he was like, so I could see it better. You know, he was like,
Very
didn't care what
practical.
that symbolized for people. It was just like, so I can see it better. Um, and my mom is an incredibly funny person. The things that come out of her mouth are just so original. And she's also a natural storyteller. She recently went on this trip with some British people to Algeria, and her dispatches from Algeria were so character driven and hilarious. It was not like, oh, look, I saw this monument. It was like everybody is trying to excise the leader. Look at him standing here on the side. It's just very funny.
Well, clearly you get that from your mother because you are a born storyteller, it seems to me.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, my brother Fletcher is also a writer, I should say, and is also writing a memoir, which I'm now doing too, which we can talk about later. But
Mm.
yeah, there are two of us.
Now, that would be fascinating if you both came out with memoirs at the same time. Dueling memoirs, which one is the most accurate, especially if they have like different viewpoints on what happened in your childhood. I think that could be a really interesting study, frankly.
See,
Yeah, I
I
think the
would
Wolf
do it.
brothers.
Really? Wait, who are the Wolf brothers?
Tobias Wolf and his brother, whose name I'm somehow
Oh,
blanking on.
I think you're right.
But
Oh my God.
they have books in La Jolla. Like they also have like a history in La Jolla, so it's funny. But
Mm-hmm.
my memoir actually comes out next summer, and I'm not sure yet when Fletcher's comes out.
Are you going to compare notes and read each other's before they're published?
I don't know. Maybe. Excited.
Chad, you were going to say something,
Oh,
Chad.
I was thinking you could do it like a McSweeney sort of thing where
Mm.
they take like one person's memoir is one side of the book and then you flip it over upside down and on the back is the brother's memoir. So it's all in the same.
Oh
That's actually brilliant. That's a really good idea. Thank you,
yeah,
McSweeney's.
yeah.
The Tobias Wolff memoir, the coming of age, his young childhood, because I know he's written several memoirs. I can't remember the name of it right now. It's one word. Brilliant. One of the best memoirs I've ever read.
Yeah.
So good. Well, I look forward to reading your memoir. But for now, let's get back to Zara pining. So, did you know the ending to this book when you first started writing it, or was it a surprise to you?
I knew that what is revealed in the ending was to some degree part of Zara's character the whole time. And
Mm,
I knew that she was presenting a, a story that wasn't completely true. I think what we learn
mm,
about her in the end is something that a lot of people have inside of them and a lot of people are trying to hide.
mm.
And so after writing a draft, I think it wasn't until I wrote a draft and had a conversation with my editors about, what was really going inside Zara that we decided, oh, this should be the reveal at the end. Again, like
Nice.
blown up. I think as my career continues, I'm just having more and more fun with a bigger and bigger plot.
You know, I got that sense when I was reading this book. I just imagined you having so much fun with this book. And I thought to myself, it's like it is getting bigger and almost a little bit more. It's not ridiculous. That's not the right word. It's bigger in a really fun way. But the characters are a little bit ridiculous. But also, I can totally see this happening.
Yeah. Thank you. And yes, I was having so much fun writing it. I think to me, I have a lot of writer friends who are like, oh no, I have to write the book. And I'm thinking, dude, this was the goal. Like, we're living the dream. This was
Right?
it. This is what our little self wanted. And we started doing this because it was fun. So, of course, like it's an arduous, it's a long process, but it's also so fun to lose yourself in a fake world and then to have other humans actually read it.
Hmm.
Like, how cool.
Very cool. Yeah, absolutely. How how often do you write?
I I mean, I write compulsively and have so really since I was 9 and my mom gave me my first journal. I have
Mm.
recorded everything. I mean, not everything, but I've recorded so much of my life. And I think that uh, has informed my memory. It's like I'm choosing what to remember as I write it, and I'm also just practicing, writing stories.
Hmm.
How often do I work on, books, larger projects? I like to work in a really concentrated way. So ideally, I go away. Recently, I went to Costa Rica to write this memoir, and it's just so much easier to leave so that I don't have to be saying no to everything. I don't have to be thinking about, whatever's happening in my house, etc.
Right.
And then I just work in a really like dedicated monkish way where that's all I'm doing for a short period. For some reason, all of my books have taken me 7 weeks to write.
Wow.
So
Wow.
usually that's my magic number, but that's like again a very monkish. This is all I'm doing, and a reason I do that is because I think that starting energy is a particular type of energy. It's not like any other energy, and I think when you feel that excitement, or when I do, I want to take it as far as I can, and also it's just a lot to remember. There's a lot of stuff in a novel, so I feel like if I step away from it and then I come back, I'm wasting 2 weeks to remember what I wrote.
Absolutely. That's so true. And awesome that like you can just sit down and like bust it out. 7 weeks feels pretty incredible to me. That feels like what, 8 hours a day or
8 hours a day, or I don't know. I don't really. I'm like so regimented anyway that I don't really
think
feel
about
like
it.
doing a time thing is for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
But I just do it until I feel like I've honestly, done enough work.
That's awesome. Well, and you're coming out with another book on June 11th. We mentioned it in the bio, but you're Grounded, an anti self help book to calm you the fuck down. So tell us about this book.
Yeah, I'm so excited about this book. So this is an interactive journal style book. It features me as a bird stick person. And every time I show this stick person to somebody, they're like, oh yeah, that's you. It's funny because for a while I was like, how should I depict myself? Should I be a swan? That seems like too on the nose. So I just call this my birdie self.
Hmm.
And My birdie self takes you through some ideas about how to get grounded in a way that's not cloying. I
Hmm.
love self-help. I love the self-help section, but what doesn't resonate with me about the self-help section is that a lot of it is so earnest. It's like painfully earnest, and that doesn't resonate with me. I'm just like, no. I mean, if you really think about what we're doing here, it's all hilarious. But
Right.
what are we doing? We don't even know.
That.
So it's funny. And yeah, this is my second illustrated book, and this was an unexpected turn that my career took. The first one is called The Bad Mood Book, and these books are just so fun to write, and I'm very happy to not only be writing novels now. That's a big thing I've realized in the last few years is, to it did not work for me to put all my eggs in one basket, especially because I am very fast. Um,
Right.
it's
Yeah.
more fun and more rewarding to do many different things.
I can see that. I love that you are so dedicated to your writing, and I think the word dedicated is kind of perfect when describing you. I've listened to a couple interviews, and I remember hearing one where you talked about your journey to getting published, being dedicated to make that happen. Can you tell us that story?
Of course.
You're like, which
I
story? Okay.
Yeah. Um, no, I think this is, a good story that I hope is helpful to anybody who is writing. It's really about, trusting yourself and that it's really about persistence. Talent is like a nice icing on the cake, but it's not the cake. Like it's about persistence. So I have always
Right,
wanted to be a
right.
writer. I have been confused about many other things in my life, but it was always clear to me I was going to be a writer. And I took a traditional route. I got a BA in creative writing, and then I went on to get an MFA in creative writing. And for my thesis, I wrote a novel. And I was so dedicated to this idea of this novel happening that I designed the cover many times. I painted the cover on a canvas. I had a notebook that was filled with collages of like clothes that the main character would buy. I had a map of her room. I had like her whole life in this notebook. I was like, this is happening. And my thesis advisor read this novel, which is called It's Going to Be a Wonderful Day, and it was set in PB, Pacific Beach, San Diego,
Mm-hmm.
near where I grew up. And they were like, "This is really good. You should send it out to agents." And like I remember one of my thesis advisors, Gary Steingart, gave me like the email address of his agent. I thought it was such a big deal, even though he said at the time like she doesn't answer anybody. But here you go. I don't think I ever heard from her, but. um, at that time, the publishing industry seemed so opaque and huge and overwhelming. Now I know that it's like four people who all know each other. But I sent the book out, and everybody said the same thing, which was, wow, you're a really good writer, but nothing happens in this book. And I was like, oh my God,
Hmm.
is that true? Nothing happened. Whoa, okay. So after I got over that, I wrote an entirely new book, sent it out, and all the agents said, yeah, you're a really good writer, but nothing happens in this book, except for there was one agent who said, but if you change these, 9 billion things about this book, I'll consider repping you. And I thought I had made it. I mean, I was like, this is it. I walked down Fifth Avenue afterwards in, I always say, pink fry boots that I would never wear today. And I was like, I've made it. Now I'm like, wow, Fifth Avenue is such a douchebag place to meet. Like, totally different view on it. But I went I changed the 9 billion things, and I went back to him and I was like, hey, here is what you asked for.
I'm ready.
And he basically
Yeah.
barely remembered who I was. He was like, "What? Who are you?" No. Like and I was like, "Wow, okay, this is a good lesson." It's so funny these lessons that we all know, but then we have to learn them ourselves. It's actually like incredibly annoying. I often think about how everything I need to know
Totally.
I learned in kindergarten, and now I'm just like relearning it.
Right.
Yeah, don't trust other people's opinions. One of the first things that my first workshop teacher in grad school said was, you need to be 90% sure of what you're doing. And the other 10%, you need to be really, really open to being wrong, but you need to be 90% sure, because otherwise you're just like, a sailboat with no sail. You're just going to get thrashed around. So then what happened was I ended up going to a 1 week workshop at Eckerd College, my alma mater, with this woman, Ann Hood. I took a class with Ann Hood for 1 week. And during this class, she handed out what she called the novel template. And she said, if you can't fill out this template, then you can't write a novel. And it asked some really basic questions. What is the plot of your novel? Like in, 2 paragraphs. What is the structure of the novel? What is the point of view? What is the container? That's something that a lot of people don't think about. What is the full time span that we're dealing with? And then how from there can you go chop it up to suit the needs of your story? And I looked at this thing and I was like, this is so beneath me. This is so rudimentary, Now in retrospect, I can see that my grad school program was really useful because it made me friends. It was also just like a soft landing, a nice place to be while getting sober because it was pretty easy. You just kind of showed up. Honestly, I spent the second half of grad school reading Pema Chodron books within the other book that I was like pretending to take notes about in the back of the class. So when people say how was grad school, I'm like, I don't even really know. But I ended up using that novel template to write my next book. And by that time I was really pissed off because I've never gotten myself jobs where I could get comfortable. I was working as a nanny in Soho, which was, fascinating, but not somewhere I wanted to be forever.
Right.
So yeah, I quit that job and then I went and wrote We Could Be Beautiful first at a residency called Ragdale in Chicago, where it was so cold I went jogging one day and almost lost my thumb. And then
Oh, no.
the second half of the book I wrote in Hawaii, where my dad lived, and where I've done a lot of writing as an adult. And everything and I was like, things are going to happen in this book. I think I titled the document "Things Are Going to Happen." Like, I was
Wow.
like, all
Yeah.
right, what's happening? Where's the forward momentum? And I started thinking about it from the point of view of the reader, like, how do you get the person to turn the page? How do you create suspense? And I think a lot of people might hear that and think, oh, well, that's just, commercial, and like trying to be too commercial. But to me, it's so fun to try to create suspense, to figure out like how much information dole out at what time, what is the tone, what are you making the reader believe, and then how are you upending their expectations? It's so fun.
Absolutely. I think of it cinematically too. Like when I was reading I Want You More, all I could do is visualize this like gorgeous estate in the Hamptons and these beautiful women, these characters who were like, I just felt like it was unfolding in front of me so vividly. Do you try and imagine it as if it's on a movie screen when you write?
I mean, I definitely imagine it visually,
Mm-hmm.
of course. And since moving to LA, I'm writing scripts like everybody else. So
Oh,
sure, maybe
really?
that's important.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
pointed out to me that it's actually a low production cost movie or TV series. So I hadn't really thought of that, but yeah, that's a plus.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, I'm always thinking in terms of images,
yeah. Whatever happened to It's Going to Be a Beautiful Day? Did you just totally scrap it, or did pieces of those characters end up in your other books?
That's a really good question. I mean, I think I've kind of, it's funny. I wrote a draft of what would have been my third novel, and that was similar to It's Going to Be a Beautiful Day, in that it was about somebody who was overly optimistic. And I guess that theme sort of bled into Stevie Green. So like, yes, kind of, but not directly.
Yeah, yeah. What would you say was the most fun about writing I Want You More?
Ooh. I mean, personally, it always feels great to metabolize my pain into art. like, I don't know what I would be doing if I were an accountant or something. I think I would have to like be a kickboxer or so, I don't know. Figure out some other outlet. And then from a craft perspective, as I just said, it's just a blast to be thinking about, okay, where am I going to end this chapter? How is that going to make the reader keep reading? What am I going to tell them now? When will this reveal come? How can I
Yeah.
really control the emotions of the reader?
I felt this crazy amount of tension from page 1. And I kept thinking about that as I was reading. Like, I had this sense of like, oh shit, what's going to happen? Right? Like, there was tension in the writing, even though there was nothing tense happening. Right. And I'm just curious if when you're writing, do you purposely try and imbue that into your writing, or do you come back later and see it and then enhance it? Like, what's that like for you?
Oh, that's interesting. I don't know that I really thought, okay, there needs to be tension.
Something.
I but like I think there's a sense of mystery, like a
Right.
sense of
Right.
impending doom, I think is what
That's
I
perfect.
understand that that's what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like obviously,
Well, I
in the
absolutely.
beginning, oh sorry.
Oh, no, no. I'm sorry.
This
Go ahead.
Okay. This book starts with the death of Zara's father, which is really based on my own dad's death. But I did
Mm,
that because I wanted her to be extra vulnerable. So we start with
mm-hmm.
that, and then we get her meeting with Jane Bailey, at a time when she's incredibly lost. She's like a soup looking for a container. I don't remember if I kept that line in there or not, but we
You
know
did.
from
You
the
did.
moment they
Yeah.
meet. Oh, good. Okay,
Yeah.
good. Oh, and you remembered it. That's nice.
Yeah, no, I totally did. I was like, oh, I love that. There's so many sayings that in little phrases that I wanted to underline that were so great. I mean, you're just a fantastic writer, Swan. I mean, there's no doubt. But also, like, you create these exciting experiences for your reader. And that's, it is an escape. And that's fucking awesome. So good on you.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
You know what else I want to talk about is eavesdropping.
Wait, what?
I
Yeah,
know.
that is my favorite activity. And my favorite place to eavesdrop is on the beach because you can be really close to other people and they don't even think that you're eavesdropping on them. And you can also like peep over at them. I mean, you can just like basically baldly stare at people and listen to what they're
Voyeur.
saying at the beach. Yeah. And
So
I used
you
to
wear
go,
like
where what?
oh, I'm imagining you wearing like a big hat and sunglasses, or you just boldly
No.
do this without any of that.
I mean, I'm a big fan of a hat. I like a hat. I'm in
Mm-hmm.
restoration mode now that I'm 41. My mom is really, really, really into sunscreen, so we're all like completely paranoid. I used to go to school
Nice.
when I was a little kid, and people would be like, "Who smells like suntan lotion?" And I'd be like, "Ooh, it's me." But I grew up going to Hawaii a lot, and
Oh,
Hawaii
no.
is a place
I was
where a
going to
lot of people
say,
go. Yeah, they go there with a lot of expectation. And my favorite place to eavesdrop in Hawaii is on the Big Island at Kua Bay. It's this just really pretty beach. And you just hear people go like, okay, what are we doing later? Well, what are we gonna eat? What and you just like you hear the stress of them being on the vacation. It's hilarious.
right. I have this great story. One time I was at dinner with some friends and we were standing in line. I think we were getting ready to pay and we were talking about what we were going to do next. And we had plans of going to this place called Eclipse Chocolate, which, dear listeners, it's fantastic. You can order it online, eclipsechocolate.com. But anyway, so we're like, okay, we're going to go to Eclipse, we're going to get chocolate, and then we're going to go to this other place and we're going to like watch the beach. I don't remember what it was. But I realized at Eclipse that there were these people there who had been at the restaurant. And I was like, oh, look, those people were at the restaurant. And then the third location where we went, those same people were there. And I was like, wow, that's so crazy. And so I literally like kind of walked over and I said, oh my gosh, we saw you at the restaurant and at Eclipse. And he kind of got this sheepish look on his face. And he was like, oh, well, we heard you over talking about what you were going to do with your evening. And it sounded so fun. We decided to do it too.
Oh my God, I knew that was going to be the punchline of this story. I love it. So fun.
Eavesdropping. So, right. But I mean, as a writer, you really do need to pay attention because that's where your characters come from, is all these, beautiful people out in the world doing these crazy things that we adopt into characters. I love it.
I have always been, on the subject of observing, I've always just loved looking at other people and figuring out what they're doing and making up stories about them. I can't work in a cafe or in public because I get too invested in the characters around me.
Right.
And I'm just like very easily entertained. I like to say, I think I could just stare at a blade of grass for like an hour, but really people, I'm just like, what are we doing? I
Yeah.
often zoom out and think, so we built these houses and then we built fences around them. And we're like taking ourselves so seriously. Where is that person going? Like, what are we doing? It's just hilarious.
Totally. Yeah. My mom and I, when we would go on road trips, like we'd see someone walking down the road and like 10 minutes later, we would have like developed this entire like story around why they're walking down the road, what happened. They got into a fight with their lover and like, where they're going and why they're doing it. So I agree. I like to entertain myself with the fake stories of those around me.
Totally. And I like asking people questions too. Like I like to like cut right through the small talk at a party and be like, no, how are you really?
That must be disarming. Do people do they appreciate it or are they like, whoa?
It kind of depends on the person, but
right.
I don't really want to have the small talk. If they don't like it, that's okay.
You're like, moving on. Next.
Yeah, next.
Desired effect is reached either way.
Yeah, totally. I love that about you. And then maybe that comes through in the characters too, By the way, I love Diego in this book. Like he's so fun. He says all of the things that I want to say. Where does Diego come from in this book?
Gosh, no one has asked me about Diego. Thanks for asking. Diego is loosely based on my friend Randy, who's a lawyer, and we lived together for a few years back in the day in Boston. And he is just a truth teller, and that is what Diego does in the book. He's a great foil for Zara. And part of the fun of writing the first character is that every first character is unreliable. First person narrator, I should say, is an unreliable narrator. And so I'm interested in figuring out how to see around what the narrator is telling us to what is true. And a great way to do that is to have a truth-telling friend foil like Diego.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Would you say that getting your MFA made you a better writer?
I think it put me in among people who were also serious about writing. And that was very important to me at the time. I think writing is so solitary that just to have a group was really useful. So it's almost like AA in a way, where it's like, I don't think I would have stopped drinking if I didn't have that group to go walk into. It's just like, oh, there are these other people doing this. Okay, I can do this. Did it technically make me a writer? Sure, I'm sure I learned some things technically. I mean, what you really learn is how to give feedback, which is useful.
Yeah, it is useful. Oh, I feel like I'm really bad at that. When I go into read and critique groups, I'm like, I have no idea what to say. I'm either going to say, wow, that's really good, or that was terrible. Like, those are the things I want to say.
Yeah, it's interesting because, the person on the other end, different people respond to different things too. So sometimes you have to take that into account.
100%. Now, I find it interesting that you've switched publishers. So I wanted to ask about moving to Zibby Books and how that came to be.
I moved to Zibby Books for a really logistical reason. Gallery, the imprint of Simon and Schuster, with whom I published Getting Clean with Stevie Green, stopped doing novels and is now only doing celebrity memoirs.
Oh, interesting. Wait, will yours be published through them? I mean, You are a celebrity.
No. My memoir is no, but like the book that I ghost wrote for The Real Housewife is published by them. That's the type of
Mm.
celebrity I think they're in. My memoir is going to be published with Zippy Books. It comes out at some point next summer.
Oh,
And
nice,
I will
nice. We
also
have a lot to look
say,
forward to from you. Are you already
yeah,
working on? Are you already working on your next novel?
no, I just turned the memoir in, and so now we're editing it. I'm focused on that and also on making some visual art.
Well, and I mean, you're on tour for 2 books too. That's gonna take up a lot of time.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's such a different mind space to inhabit than the sitting alone making stuff mind space.
I imagine like you go in chunks, right? So you write for 7 weeks and then you go through the editing process. And then when it's finally published, then you go through the touring process. Does your life feel like it has these patterns that happen?
Um, yeah, it does feel like I guess I'm sort of used to this process now. And as I said before, what I'm focused on right now is just doing more, is diversifying my portfolio, I guess I could say. So I feel like making some visual art right now. So I'm just going to do that and see how that goes. I kind of think the whole world of visual art is just such bullshit. I kind of just want to see how far I can get. And and then I'm also interested in writing for TV and film, and so that's something else I'm trying to move
Mm.
forward right now.
Well, speaking of visual art, I know that you have a line of greeting cards. I mean, I guess you would call them a line. I have them and I love them. And when I send them to people, people are like, wait, where did you get these? Are you still selling your greeting cards on your website?
God, that's a great question. I am not, but if anybody wants a greeting card, you can just email me through my website. There's like a contact form at the end. And I think what I'm going to do for a little while is just make original pieces and sell those on Instagram and see how it goes. But
I
I
think
might
that's a
come back to the
really good
greeting cards
idea.
later. Okay,
that's,
thank you. I'm so
that's a
glad.
great idea. Yeah, you're so talented. You do so many things. It's incredible to me.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Well, as I said, I'm just trying to entertain myself in a room alone and have fun.
And entertaining the world as you do it. Um, so you're grounded when that comes out on June 11th. Are you gonna have a big bash? Like, and who's publishing that book? I didn't ask.
That book is being published by Tarcher Perigee, um, who they publish a lot of gift books like this, and then they also publish Gabor Mate, who I think is a genius, and whose
Hmm.
most recent book is called The Myth of Normal, and then also Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way is published by them, so they do kind of
Okay.
a
Yeah.
large thing. Um, and my editor there, Lauren Appleton, is so rad. She totally understands my dark sense of humor. It's great. Um,
That's important.
and yeah, yeah, it's great. And I think, at this stage in my career, I really understand that it's best to be as involved as possible in this publicity outfacing part of it and to just be really proactive. In the past, I have expected other people to do that for me, and then I've been uh, frequently disappointed.
Hmm.
And so this time I'm like, no, I'm just going to make up a bunch of stuff. So on June 11th, on the launch day, I'm doing a conversation at a lesbian cafe here in WeHo. It's Pride Month, so I'm also like,
Hmm.
whatever, the
Yeah.
gay person with the books. Um, I'm doing an event with my friend who like organizes all the lesbian parties in LA. And then on the 29th, I will be having a conversation with Emily Hampshire at Annabelle's Book Club in LA.
Nice. Nice. Oh my gosh. I wish that the traffic between San Diego and LA wasn't quite so harsh, or I'd come up to one of those and celebrate with you.
Oh
I got
man, well, I think I'm coming to San Diego for something
Oh,
soon.
Well, you know what? I will have to get on. Do you have a newsletter?
No.
So I have to pay attention to Instagram because I know you're active on Instagram.
I guess so. Or I'll put it on my website.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask you if the difference between, a gift book and a novel is like just in the promotional world, is it markedly different, or is, it's still a book? How does that work?
It is completely different. The novel people like don't really know what a gift book is, and then the gift book people think that novels are prestigious. And the marketing part of it, the gift book really all happens online. Like it's really all about social media.
Mm,
And then
yeah.
the novel you go and read to people, and you have these events, and so whatever, I'm having some events for my gift book that I made up, and I'm probably doing that because I'm primarily a novelist, but I don't, that's definitely like not a standard thing.
So what you need is an influencer to tell the world to buy this book. Well, right?
A ton of influencers, yeah.
Not just one.
All of them.
All of the influencers need
All
your
of them.
Grounded. Well, I can't wait to find it.
Thank you.
And I say find it because, as you said, there's no ARCs out there. They don't do that in the gift book world, which I find fascinating. So on June 11th, I will run out and buy it. Can you pre-order it?
Great. If you want to pre-order it, actually,
Yes.
I don't know when this podcast is coming out, but if people can pre-orders are really, really important. Even if this doesn't apply to my book now, just in general, if you have author friends, pre-orders are so major. In a way, they determine the success of the book. I mean, they determine which lists you're on, how you get rated on Amazon. So if you want to support your author friends, pre-order.
Definitely. Excellent advice, which we will absolutely do. Okay, I have one final question for you before we let you go about your day. What is the weirdest job you've ever had?
I've had so many weird jobs. I guess I was a telemarketer for a little while, and I have realized that if you have facial tattoos, you're either a rock star or a telemarketer. And there was like a smoking pen in this parking lot. So it was basically like me as a teenager. I was young when I had this job, and a bunch of people with facial tattoos in this like small little square pen smoking, like crowded. Yeah, and then trying to sell stuff. I was not good at selling the stuff, but it was funny.
That's awesome. Well, I think at some point maybe a telemarketer is going to make it into your books.
Right. Maybe.
Well, Swan, thank you so much. This has been awesome. I love talking to you, and I love reading your books. I look forward to getting my hands on your Grounded, an anti-self-help book to calm you the fuck down, which who doesn't need that? And I just want to tell our listeners, I Want You More is such a good book. I read it in one day, and it's such a page turner. It's so fun, and you're going to love it. The ending is fantastic. I mean, the whole book is fantastic, but I didn't see it coming. Let's just put it that way. And you can learn more about Swan on our website, swanhuntley.com. You can follow her on Instagram at Swan Huntley, and go out and pre-order her books and support Swan. You're one of the good ones, Swan. We love you.
Oh my God. Thank you so much, Jennifer. This has been a blast, and so happy to be talking to a San Diegan.
Yeah, I know, right? When I saw your phone number, I was like, oh, that's right. 619. That's right. She's from San Diego. So that was a fun reminder. All right, folks, thank you so much for joining us today on The Premise. And please visit us online at thepremisepod.com. Subscribe, rate, review The Premise wherever you get your podcasts. Those reviews really help us get the word out and increase our subscriber base. They help our authors, and we appreciate you. You can also follow me, your host, on Instagram at Jennifer Grace. And remember to go on and subscribe to the San Diego Writers Festival.com. Until next week, thank you so much for listening. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thanks, bye.